Hey, Joan.
Hey, Roland, good to see you again.
It's great to see you too. It's been a long time.
That's been a long time, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining Joan and me to talk a little bit today about the dynamic aging, not only the book, but the concept of dynamic aging. And I think what you're going to find is a very, very interesting journey that Joan and her husband Willis are undertaking. And I'm super excited about it. I've read your blog post on it, several blog posts on it, been following you. And Katy and I decided that would be what a great opportunity to talk to you and do a little interview and get some more in-depth information. I'm such a bad speaker, but I'm working on it. So thank you for joining me. Just want to give a little introduction for those few people who don't know you yet, and are going to know you even better after we're done today. So, like I said, I've met Joan several times. Back in, I think it was 2014 and 2015, when my wife Galene and I, we were traveling, we were training to be both to be restored. I think Galena was already a restorative exercise specialist at that time, but I was still in my training, and lucky enough to meet Joan and her co-authors. I was so impressed and inspired by Joan's vitality back then, and so much that you were sort of leading the charge. Like, you were not just sitting back, you were like, hey, let's do this, let me show you this, let me help you with this. And it was just such an inspiration. Galena shared with me later, she goes, I just want to be Joan, because I want to be, she goes, I'm going to be Joan,
So much more. She started a lot earlier.
Yeah. So then years later, we met again at your book launch for dynamic aging. And, again, it was what a great experience. I'm gonna hold up the book. Probably everyone can see this in mirror image, so there's not much I can do about that with the technology. This is the newest cover because it was recently re-released, and there's Joan's with the original cover.
That's right? The original, yeah.
Yeah, I have both versions as well. So I have but I'm never going to give up. I've given the book to many people, including my mom, who's 79 and can still get up and down off the ground.
Hey.
Yeah. And but I'm never going to give up that copy, because it's signed by everyone. So, Joan, I was impressed by your bio as well. You were an attorney, and when you start something, you really want to do it, right? You didn't start practicing law until you were in your 40s, because it took you wanted to do it right, I guess, and you took 20 years to become an attorney, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long were you an attorney?
About 15 years.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. And then when you were 60, Joan became certified to train older adults in weightlifting to maintain bone density. And when she reached 71, she got certified as a nutritious movement restorative exercise specialist, which is what I was in the training to become as well. And became a fitness instructor, and she continues to practice every day. Then at age 78, the same age as Grandma Moses, started to paint in earnest. Joan co-authored the best-selling book, Dynamic Aging, which we've already showed off a little bit, and created the successful blog, Dynamic Aging for Life. After training people in the physical aspects of dynamic aging, Joan decided she wanted to continue to change the paradigm of aging, which I think she has. At age 71, she's become a certified life coach. And now at 82.
At 81.
81. What did I say?
You said 71.
Oh, well, you have the experience of 10 years under your belt. But 81, so you're continuing to do these new things, even at age 81. And now at 82, created your successful coaching business, Coaching Dynamic Aging. And now undergoing a brand new journey. I guess journey is always changing, but a brand new journey with your husband, Willis, a big adventure. Tell us a little bit about that and what inspired this adventure.
Well, we call this our journey of self-discovery. So Willis had a hip replacement last October. His right hip was replaced. We are avid hikers. We've hiked probably most of the national parks here in the continental United States. And anyway, afterwards, I noticed that as he was recovering, he just didn't seem to get excited about anything. And so I asked him, what's going on? And he said, well, I just feel like excitement's in my past and all that. And so I said, well, what is it? What do you think that would get you excited now? And he said, boy, without any hesitation, he said, I think if I could hike Vernal and Nevada Falls in Yosemite National Park. He spent a lot of his childhood in Yosemite with his family. And he and I have hiked Vernal and Nevada Falls in the past. And I said, really, are you serious? And he said, yeah, I think so. So I said, well, are you or aren't you? And he said, yeah, I'd like to do it, but I'd like to wait until next year, until 2022. And so we set June as the time that we would do it. And I wondered a little bit whether he was really, into it, how much of a commitment there was. But he went to a doctor's appointment and came home and he said, well, I told the doctor that we're hiking Vernal and Nevada Falls. I said, oh, okay. And then we went to see a surgeon and we got approval for it. And so, yeah, this is our year-long journey, getting there physically, mentally, emotionally, all the stuff it takes to go through preparing for something like that. Because I will be 84 and he will be 80. I'll be 84 and he'll be 86. So, yeah.
Wow. I think him taking the initiative to talk to his doctor about it without you even being there is a very good sign.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I'm curious about, it's great. You talk a lot about in your coaching practice, you use a lot of, like, I'm a coach and you're a coach. And I really like some of what you talk about, your whys and your hows. Tell us a little bit about, like, you just described Willis's why, right? What's your why for doing this?
Why? So basically, there's something that in coaching we deal with called POP, P-O-P, which is your purpose, which is the why, your outcome, which is what do you want, and then how, which is the plan. And most people start out with the plan. Okay, so, all right, we said we would hike the falls. Okay, how are we going to do that? But the thing is, if we don't know the purpose, why we want to do it, then when things don't go right, we get tired or we have injuries or whatever, then it's very easy to say, yeah, well, it was just an idea. But if there's a purpose that we've articulated that we can go back to and look at, then that keeps us going. And so the purpose that he articulated, and which has been a purpose of mine forever, is basically to find out what's possible. This is about changing the paradigm of aging. What's possible at our age? And so the outcome we're looking at is when we do this hike, that will add confidence to us that we're not limited just because of a chronological age. So then once you have your purpose and your outcome, then the how becomes much easier. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I don't know, I'm sure you've experienced this probably with your clients and now with yourself. It's like when somebody is along for the ride and your whys are aligned, it's so much a more rewarding journey. It helps you sort of cruise through the little bumps too.
Right. I don't know if I'd call it cruise. Sometimes it feels a little like slogging, but yeah, it's true. It's much easier when you have a partner.
Yeah, that's great. What are some of the current challenges that you and Willis are facing with this adventure?
So, right, chronic challenge for Willis is that his right hip was replaced. Now his left hip gets cranky when he hikes. The right hip is perfectly fine. We saw his surgeon and he said there's nothing the matter with the left hip. There's no surgery pending. That it's, it just is what it is when, with the body that he has. And so he just keeps dealing with it. We're fortunate because we have a 10-acre ranch up on a mountain, and we have trails. We've put in trails on that. And so we can hike to the amount that we want to. We don't have to do any particular length. And so he uses that a lot. Plus we have a personal trainer, another restorative exercise specialist, Nancy Burns. And we also are doing a combination of nutritious movement and strength building. Well, nutritious movement is about strength building as well as all the other parts that go with it. So all of this is helping him. For me, I hurt myself. It's so annoying. If only the universe would tell you when you're hurting yourself so you could stop, but no, it doesn't until after, the day after. So anyway, I went out to walk to breakfast, a flat walk, very easy walk, and started out too fast, too hard, and apparently damaged my piriformis. Oh. So I thought I couldn't walk. I mean, literally, I was in so much pain, I couldn't walk. And I thought, oh man, that's not good. So anyway, I got an x-ray that says no, the hip's fine. There's no bone or joint damage. And the soft tissue, they discovered yesterday when I went to my first PT that it's piriformis. And so it's getting better. I'm 2 weeks past it, and I'm able to walk again perfectly fine, just kind of limited. And I'm doing all kinds of physical therapy for it. So it's the scariness of it, though. It's the scary, I think to myself, oh no, what the heck? So yeah, it's always the scariness.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, I don't know if you ever heard this, but some of like my clients will say, oh, I work out and I do all these exercises and I still get hurt. So what's the point? But like I always remind them that, like, gosh, how much worse could it have been? Or how much better were you able to recover from this because you already had the strength and the mobility and the resilience to do this?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So speedy recovery. And I know you'll be back on track soon. Yeah. Are there any, so that's a physical challenge for you. What about, and we know about Willis's hips. Are there any sort of mental or emotional barriers that you're facing, either you or your husband?
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
Oh, either you or your husband.
Oh, okay. So I wonder whether you have ever experienced that when you want to do something, that there'll be a conversation that takes place in your head that says, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I did a blog post on it. We call it the voice in coaching. And it's this little part of you that wants to protect you, but it does not want you doing anything out of your comfort zone. And so my voice, I've named, her name is Sarah, and she's a prima ballerina in toe shoes, and she spins around all over the place. But her favorite place is jumping on my back and telling me I can't do it, and telling me that I'm too old. And I'll tell you what, it has taken a lot of coaching, getting a lot of coaching for me to learn to deal with Sarah. So I would say that's the mental and emotional part of it, is that when I think to myself, wow, I look at people around me and I don't see a lot of role models doing this. And so, Sarah says, you can't do this. You're too old. So I just have to, get her off my back, send her out in the forest to play and say, yeah, I'm doing it. So there.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, I have had that voice. I've never thought to name my voice, but maybe next time the voice pops up, he and I might have to have a conversation. Yeah. Yeah. Does Willis have a voice?
He does. He has two. You're allowed to have as many as you want. I know some of my clients say, listen, what voice? I have a committee that's telling me all the time. Yeah, he does. He has two of them. One that is very sure that he can do anything. Absolutely, he can do anything. And that's the one he likes to cultivate. And then he has one that says, are you out of your mind? You know, it's the same thing, same old thing. It's that one that wants to protect you. It has a good intention, I guess, but it wants to keep you in your comfort zone. So if you do anything out of your comfort zone, which is pretty much life, then you've got to deal with that voice.
Yeah, I think all of these voices are there to protect us, but they don't always know best, right? Because they come from their own, they're coming from that particular part of your psyche that's so they're biased. They're biased, but they mean well. We just have to, that's why we have to be gentle with them. Send them out to play in the forest, collect some flowers.
Right.
Yeah. Come back and see how much I've accomplished.
Right.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So what about, so you talked about like your why and like some of the barriers, like what about the hows? Like what is your, I know you have about a year, right? So train for this. Like what is the training plan like?
Well, so the training plan is to hike at least 3 times a week, one long hike. And by a long hike, we're gearing up. So in May, we were walking on the beach. So that gives you some resistance. And we worked up to 5 miles on the beach. And then just before I hurt myself, I was doing, I did a 6-mile hike with a weight vest and also climbed 280 stairs. We have stairs on our property because our property is so steep that there are places where we have stairs. And so we're using those to practice for Vernal Falls. That hike includes 600 granite steps. And so this is, so just before I got hurt, I did a 6-mile hike wearing a weight vest and a backpack with water and climbed 280 stairs. And so I was in really good shape. So you can imagine how disappointed I was when I hurt myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's part of it, is the hiking. Then, as I said, we have joined a brand new class called Be Stronger that is being taught by restorative exercise specialist Nancy Burns at Body Wisdom Studio, get that straight. And we helped her design that class. And then we also asked her to become our personal trainer. So she is giving us different, like the TRX, we're building body strength using the TRX. But what's so cool is that it's all of Katy's work is foundational to it, because it's the alignment that we learned from Katy and that we've integrated that keeps us at this age from getting hurt as we do these things. Nancy also has this sprinting up our hillsides, and I continue to hang from trees, and it's we just keep working. So it'll be 3 days a week of strength training, 3 days a week of hiking.
That's great. I love it.
Yep.
I love it. I love your plan, how it increments up over time, so that's going to be good. And you've gotten me and Galena both interested. We should check out those hikes too someday.
They're pretty cool.
She's never been there, and it's been, I was there when I was a kid, but it's been such a long time. So I'd love to go back.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about, gosh, I don't know what to talk about, but I mean, one thing that really struck me was your talk about changing the paradigm of aging. I'm 54 and I don't feel old, but there's evidence just some evidence, all right, of my aging. But I feel good, and I credit, a lot of the stuff that the philosophies that you and I follow about alignment, natural movement, nutritious movement. And so what do you see? Tell me about changing the paradigm of aging. What does that mean to you?
What I noticed as I got older was that when I hit 50, ARP sent me a membership card, which I resented. And I'm still not a member. I know they have many great benefits, and I, highly recommend it for people who, want that sort of thing. But it was a turnoff to me for someone to be saying to me, okay, you're now old. That's what ARP felt like to me. So, and also society, it wants us to slow down. The whole cultural mentality seems to be one of, is this really safe for you to do? Are you really able to physically do this? A lot of limiting thinking. And I decided at a very young age, that I did not want to age the way I saw the majority of people aging around me. And so I have always, my lifetime purpose, which I was only able to articulate about 3 years ago, but my lifetime purpose is to explore, to inspire, and to empower. And so my life has been about exploration, exploring the ways to stay as healthy and as active as I could. So long before I met Katy, I started exercising at age 12. My mother modeled that for me. And so I've always been an avid exerciser, hiking, all those things. So all I want with the changing the paradigm of aging is for people to think for themselves, to check it out, to see what is it that you can really do. If you think, I love the example of Roger Bannister. When he ran, he was the first person to run a mile in 4 minutes. And science did not believe that the human body was capable of doing that. And now, of course, we know many people have done that and much better. So how do we know? How do we know what we can do at whatever age we are? How do we know if we don't actually give it a try? In fact, my last blog post was exactly that. It's called Just Do It. And it's all about, if you don't risk doing it, then you'll never know whether you can do it. And so for me, it's that I have a big curious part of me. And I'll tell you what, that curiosity, my mom gave me that, and it just takes me everywhere. So yeah, that's basically why we're doing this journey of self-discovery. We are looking to explore to see if we can do it, to inspire others to explore what's important to them, what they would like to do, regardless of their age, and then to empower them with that by seeing what it is that other people are doing at any particular age.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I think most of us are familiar with I'm not going to say they're obvious, but if you want to, the obvious benefits of dynamic aging, stronger, being stronger, being able to get up and down off the ground, have better, bone health, bone density, and just health overall, right? So we get that. But have you noticed are there any surprise benefits that you've come across?
Yeah, there have been some really cool ones. Like, for example, early on when I started training with Katy, I was wearing orthotics, shoe orthotics, and I thought I would wear them forever, the rest of my life. And I would say within 6 months, I was able to go to a negative heel. And I had not been able to walk barefoot on the beach for years, many years, I would say at least 20 years. And I was able to walk barefoot on the beach. In fact, talked about the 5 miles that we walked on the beach. That was barefoot for me. So that's a thrill for someone who loves it and who wasn't able to do it. The other thing that I think a lot of people can probably relate to is I used to have chronic back pain. When I would get up in the mornings, it was like, oh my word, how am I going to get through this? And I don't have back pain. It's pretty amazing. I'm pretty sure it's because I learned how to ramp my ribs.
Those were big. Those were big. I don't know if I've ever shared this. I probably haven't shared this with you, but we were in several classes together, and where I was either one of the victims being used or actually doing the practice teaching. But I used to have very flat feet, and one of my earliest experiences to understanding like why I should do these things was having plantar fasciitis that was just so painful, that came on so suddenly. It was so painful and so debilitating. And Galina helped me remotely, because she was still living in Bulgaria back then, helped me remotely to come up with a plan to take care of my feet. And I thought I was going to be in, orthotics for my plantar fasciitis. Like that was just going to be the new shoes I was going to be wearing, right? I was going to have to carry these things around and put them in every set of shoes I wore. But after a few months of exercising and better movement quality, I started to see an arch. The pain went away, and like now it's like when I walk, like when you walk barefoot and you step on the sidewalk and you see it's like Flintstone feet. Where before it was like super, like everything was like super crowded together. And now like my toes are out, and it's like cartoon feet. Like you see like the Hang 10 logo. It's like that. And
that is so cool. That is so cool. And then when you think about it, so our feet are our foundation. So that's pretty awesome when you can alleviate foot problems. And that was Katy's first book, was about feet.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably, yeah. Yeah, it's one of the first books. I didn't know Katy back then, but I had the book. And so that was like one of the first, every time I keep thinking, oh, this is the first book of Katy's I've read. But then I look back and I'm like, oh no, maybe because I had this problem here and I read this, but I didn't even know and didn't know like how everything was connected back then. Yeah.
The thing that I did know Katy before she wrote the book, and her working title had been The High-Heeled Hangover. And I was always sorry that she didn't stick with that title. I liked that a lot. The only thing is she felt it might not appeal to men. But once you learn about walking in zero drop shoes, what you realize is we're all walking in elevated heels unless we're walking in a zero drop. So I think that was the title I would have voted for.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, I'm all about the zero drop shoes now. And in fact, I have some pairs of dress shoes that I periodically wear for events. And I'm like, feel just so awkward and uncomfortable. And my feet really ache by the end of the night. And they're very spacious, but they still have that heel. And it makes such a big difference on how much pressure it puts on your forefoot. And you don't realize it until you've gone without. Yeah.
Well, and then what you notice is, if you've done Katy's work, what you know is that everything north of your feet is also out of whack. So then you're going to experience all the other results of being out of alignment. So it's very hard to wear a heel and get your weight back in your heels.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, even who just wear sneakers, and a lot of men with dress shoes, they don't realize that that's a heel, that even that short heel can have a detrimental effect on your whole, it's trying to tilt you forward and you're having to struggle to keep from being tilted forward. And that has profound effects down the chain or up the chain. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about the book, right? So you did not write this book alone.
No, actually, this book came about, one of my co-authors, Laura Woods, and we went through the certification process with Katy. And then we decided to take it out into the community. And so we both live in a small community in the hills in Southern California. And so we went to our local senior center and said, we would like to teach a class. And they said, yay. And so we began teaching restorative exercise, and it was a hit. We really had a good following, and people loved it. So one of the students came to us and said she had a mom and a mother-in-law who both were experiencing falls, and she so loved the work we were doing. She said, could you just put together something that I can send them? So we talked. We had started a group. There were 4 of us in Katy's classes, the 4 co-authors, Joyce Faber, Sheila Wilgas, Laura Woods, and myself. And we were, 3 of us were in our 70s, and Laura was, I think, still in her late 60s. And so one day I invited them to come out to our home, and we had lunch standing up. I took the picnic table outside and put it on the picnic benches, and we stood at that table. You know how a strong Katy is about standing workstations. So anyway, and I bought a box of See's chocolates and made a really healthy soup. And while they were there, I said to them, I think we ought to think about maybe writing a book about our experiences. I said, I've experienced such incredible changes, and I'm getting older. How is that even possible? And each one of them was experiencing the same thing. And so we decided that we would start writing and wanted to include some exercises. And then we talked to Katy and told her what we wanted to do. And she said, well, how about this? How about I write the science and put in the exercises, and then we'll interweave your stories of your experience with it. And we said, yeah, we love it. So we would meet, initially we were meeting once a month. We called ourselves the Savvy, Sassy Septuagenarians. We now are all the awesome octogenarians. We've all 80 now, in our 80s. And we call it Soup and Seas. So every week or every month we would go to a different person's house, and they would make the soup, and they would provide the 1 pound box of chocolates. It was great. It was great. And then we started meeting more, of course, to put together our parts of the book. And yeah, it was an awesome collaboration. It was a lot of fun on our end. And working with Katy, of course, was a great privilege and pleasure.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. So, so you're all in your 80s now, and yeah, this is amazing. I'm so impressed, and I've run into so many people. I live in an area where there's a lot of retired people. A lot of my neighbors are retired, and when we moved here, it was really nice to be able to you have here's a nice book. Like, we were able to give them I saw my mom 2 weeks ago, and she really loves the book, and she was thrilled. And I said I was going to be interviewing you. She's like, oh, I can't wait to listen. Can't wait to listen. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. What's her name?
Her name is Jerry.
Hey, Jerry, how are you?
Oh, she'll be thrilled. That's great. Yeah. So you put together this book. The book has been going great. And did you feel like did the process of writing the book change you at all, as far as, I know you got into you wanted to write the book because of all the changes, but what did you discover jointly, either or yourself, during the process about yourself?
Well, anytime you work together with more than yourself, you've got differing opinions and differing worldviews of how it ought to look, and what's the best way to do it. Plus, there's a lot of personality interchange, and it was a great learning experience. I can't speak for my collaborators. but I think, I know for me, I came away from it with greater respect for each one of them and what they have overcome in their lives, and their determination and their dedication to themselves, taking care of themselves and investing in their futures by using Katy's practices. So Laura had a frozen knee and was waiting for had two surgeries lined up to replace her knee when she came to Katy, and she had restless leg syndrome. And that all is gone. She never has had knee surgery. Joyce had knee problems also, and she's amazing. And Sheila was just really curious. She'd been a lifetime exerciser, and when she found Katy, she was so intrigued by the logic. And I think that's what got me too, was that I had been certified as a strength trainer. And so I was teaching older adults how to lift weights. And as I was progressing, I noticed I was hurting. This wasn't working well for me. The things that had worked for me didn't work so good anymore. So I decided, wow, I need to do something different. So when I found Katy, I too was so impressed by the logic. And anyway, yeah, so your question was, what did we learn? I think what we learned was, what I learned was to really respect people who take good care of themselves, who are willing to explore and find what they need, what works for them to enhance their longevity.
I love it. I love it. From a reader's perspective, what I think really shows through in the book is the shared experiences, but also the slightly different experiences really make the book approachable. Because if you have a skill or you're particularly good at one area, but one of your co-authors is not, they're going to say, hey, not everyone can do that. Let's find a way that where we can do this, where we can help people with that same issue in a way that's more flexible, or gives more options so everyone can participate. I think that really comes across in the book.
I know I did a blog post early on about Sheila as the queen of modification. So she was great because she had some limitations, and she was marvelous. And then Joyce taught at a senior center, and she made all kinds of modifications. So it's that flexibility that you say. It's that being able to provide something that most anyone can do with some modifications.
Yeah, because a cookie cutter approach doesn't work. You have to be able to say, it's almost like, goes back to what you said earlier. What's your why? Like, what is the why of this particular exercise or series of exercises? And so that specific how can be different for everybody. But yeah, that's great. That's great. Do you have time for a little speed round? It's kind of like a game show.
Now this is so funny. So you sent that to me in your email, and I thought, what on earth is he talking about? And then yesterday I listened to Brene Brown's podcast interviewing Adam Grant. And so at the end of it, she said, okay, so now how about a speed round? And I thought, oh, right, now I'm going to find out what the heck this is.
Oh, nice.
But I have to say, Adam Grant was not very speedy. He had a lot to say.
He had a lot to say. Yeah, I've heard, Galena and I've listened to Brene Brown's podcast quite a bit on drives, and I forgot that she does the little speed round at the end. It's sort of like in a game show, you have the lightning round where it's like, okay, just put the countdown and boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
All right, we'll see if I can be succinct.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, Joan, what is a typical client barrier to getting started with a dynamic aging lifestyle? Fear.
And I would expound a little bit and say it's fear of the unknown. Can I do it? What's it going to cost me in time and money? What will I look like? We're not kids, so it's hard. It's easier on Zoom, but it was not easy to walk into a gym, you know, in your 70s. So I would say it's fear.
I would agree. And it's not just people starting a dynamic aging lifestyle either. It's dieters, people with, you know, like I have poor mobility, whatever. Like, and I've experienced that fear too. So yeah.
By the way, dynamic aging pretty much starts when we're born. If you equate dynamic with movement, and we're always aging, if we're lucky enough, we're always aging. So dynamic aging isn't just separated to those people who are past a certain age or of a certain age. It's just, I think we don't recognize it earlier.
That's such a good point. If we recognized that earlier, that's even moving that aging paradigm even earlier down the chain, right? Is like, we won't have to do so much work to overcome these hurdles later because we will have set ourselves up for success from the beginning.
That's what I meant when I said Galena started earlier, as did you.
That's great. All right, second one. What is a typical barrier a client has to achieving their goals?
Well, a typical barrier, I believe, is not knowing their purpose. I think what happens is they say, okay, I want to do this, but how am I going to do it? And they get bogged down right there. How am I going to do it? Instead of going back and thinking, why? Why do I want to do this? And what will it give me when I do it? Then the how comes in.
That was great. Yeah, I love it. I love that. All right. What is one thing someone who wants to age better can do today to get started?
Move. And I mean physically and mentally. So I don't care who you are, move something. You can blink your eyes, you can smile. Anyone pretty much can do that. But even more, you can take a walk, or you can get your arms up over your head, make some kind of physical movement, and then mentally move. Think about something different, stretch your mind. Or as Adam Grant said, rethink. I love that.
I'm gonna have to listen to that episode.
It's pretty interesting.
That's great. That's great. Let's talk about an activity. What's the biggest bang for the buck activity they can do?
Okay, so I have 4.
Oh, okay.
First one is
a quarter each.
There you go. First one is buy the book.
Okay.
Because it will give you the exercises. The second one is to join Katy's Nutritious Movement online workout. She has those unlimited, and they're they're really inexpensive right now. So anyway, I would do that. I would do the calf stretch. The calf stretch is in our book. And I think Katy has said this too. It's the single most effective exercise because it keeps your calves lengthened, which again goes back to what we were saying about our feet. So it works on your foundational part of your body. It helps to that'll keep you from shuffling. And then the other one I would say the biggest bang is figure out what's your purpose. What is it you want? What do you want? And why do you want it? Figure that out.
That's great. That's great. Last one. So somebody who says it's too late to start.
It's never too late to start.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. If people want to learn more about you and what you offer, because you're a coach and an author and a blogger, where can they find out more about you?
Go to dynamic-aging-4life.com and you'll find my website and my blog post. And I would invite you to subscribe to the blog posts. I think you'll find them fun. They basically track the 4 of us. Initially, they track the 4 of us, the co-authors, after the publication of the book. And then more recently, once I became a coach, I shifted over to making it a coaching website. And then I'm tracking, since May, I'm tracking the journey of self-discovery. So the blog posts around that until next June when we do it.
Yay. Well, I am excited about following along. I have subscribed to your blog, so I get the notifications right into my email when you publish a new one. And yeah, and I just can't wait to continue with you, along with you and your journey with Willis.
Thank you, Roland. I really appreciate this opportunity, and it is so great to see you again. And hugs to Galena.
I will definitely do that. And it's great to see you too. Give my best to Willis. And thanks again for joining me. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And give Jerry a hug too for me.
I will do that.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.